Hello, my name is MichaelPardi, and I am here to talk about my CSE335 project. The project I decided to do is an application that allows users to store receipts and other data into permanent storage, and the title of the app is Receipt Cloud. So the idea for this app came from a necessity in my life to keep better track of my financial purchases. The idea is it'll allow users to keep track of different aspects of like a receipt or physical proof of purchase, and they'll be able to do this by listing an item, the major item purchased, listing its cost, listing the store it was purchased at through a map user interface, and also getting the address of that store, and then allowing them to take a picture of the receipt for any other information that they might not have included by typing in. The influence for this application, like I said earlier, came from a necessity to keep better track of financial spending and spending habits. Goal of this whole app is to reduce the hassle of keeping track of these purchases for financial reasons. These reasons include like each year we have to list a lot of purchases for our tax reasons. Yeah, this will make it easier as you can just instantly keep track of it and get rid of any potentially losable data like receipts. Those are easy to lose, so I figured storing them within an application would be a lot easier, and you'd have access to it at all times through your smartphone. One of the other goals I wanted to accomplish was I wanted to make it a consistent and easy database interface to access, and yeah, those are the main goals of this entire project. So the structure of the app is as follows. I'll go through this class diagram. So in it there are two core data entities. There's a users entity, which keeps track of the user accounts that are created. There's also a receipts entity, which keeps track of all the receipt data that is entered by the user. So when the user starts the app, they are sent to the view controller class, which is the main view, and it'll list a login prompt, a create new user prompt, and then a button that takes them to another view controller that lists all of the receipts that are currently stored in the database. So when they first start the app, they'll have to make a user account first, and then they'll have to log in, and that'll then allow them to access this receipt list if there are any already in it. So from there, from adding a new user, they would go to the add user view controller, and it would ask them to enter their username and then their password twice to confirm it. And then once they've successfully done that, they would return to the view controller, and they would give them the option to log in, and that would take them to the login view controller, and they'll be prompted for the information and which is required for a user, which is username and password. And upon successfully doing that, they will be sent back to the main view controller, where they will be able to access the add receipt view controller. And in that, it's a table view which lists all the currently stored core data receipts in the core data's entity. And so from there, they can add a new receipt, and this is done through the new receipt view controller. And then they'll be asked to enter all the specified information to add this receipt. And going back to the add receipt view controller, if a receipt has been added to this table view, it's created using the receipt table view cell class, which is a custom table cell class. And then if they want more detail, they can click on each individual table view entity, and this will take them to the receipt view detail view controller, where all this information previously entered is listed and allowed for the user to access. So the three functions of the MVC architecture are as follows. The view allows users to click, takes user clicks and app response to whatever the button is pressed. It displays the list of stored receipts to the user, displays the location of the receipts purchased to the user, displays the total cost of items purchased to the user, displays the item itself to the user, displays the image of the receipt to access the entirety of the information that was not entered previously by the user, and it shows user login screens when they want to enter personal information and personal amounts, as well as allowing them to create user accounts. And from the controller, which this allows the users to log in as user to access stored receipts, allows users to create new accounts to store personalized receipt storage, it grants users access to a list of total stored receipts, and it gets user access to details of each data type stored. All the information is stored within their receipt. And finally, the model allows users to add new receipt items to the database, adds new locations to a receipt record, adds new total cost to a receipt record, adds item name to a receipt record, adds new user to the user data records, and loads user data based on their current state of site on login. So they have to be logged in to obviously access this information. Context is user defined, and data is stored permanently until the user deletes the specific records. And the model is connected to two core data entities, and those are the users and receipts entities. So on to the capabilities of this application. The first major capabilities are each record allows storing of the integral information relating to the purchase. And with this, I figured I would list a few fields and have the user rely on like the most important stuff, and then for anything extra it would be relied on through an image that the user could access and view it at any time within the receipt details. The next capability is it uses a map to allow the user to easily select the purchase store and retrieves that information in case of needing to return the item. So rather than having to enter address or store name, they open up a map and they're able to select it. And this is using the Google Maps API. And finally, moving on to the last major capability of the app. Each user is given the ability to make their own account, and this way receipts can be stored independently from each user. So it's a little more personalization to it. So one user could have their own custom receipts listed and not affecting others. So moving on to the limitations of this app, and I feel like there are many, as it's still quite basic, but one of the major limitations is, despite the fact that it's called Receipt Cloud, no data is actually stored on the cloud. So unless the user is accessing their personal phone in which they've entered the information, they have no way of accessing it outside of that. And I know I could have implemented this using like Firebase or another online storage medium, but I wanted to stick with core data built into iOS, just because I was having issues getting Firebase to work fully and to my satisfaction. And also the user is limited to a main item when describing the purchase, so they have to rely on the receipts for any other information they may require. They'd have to rely on a photo of the receipt. And the reason I did this is I didn't want to have to make entering new receipts chore or hassle for the user, as entering a lot of information into text fields on a mobile device is kind of a chore, and it's not a very fun experience. Plus it bogs down the UI quite a bit, and I definitely wanted to avoid that and make it more minimal and easy to access. So some of the lessons I've learned in this class project are, initially I had an idea for an API to use, and every single one, I'd go from Amazon down, every single one I wanted to use just required way more information than I was willing to put in, and they mostly required standing websites and shopping information that I didn't have for the purposes that I wanted to use it for. And plus they were mostly focused at advertisers, so I decided to move more towards aiding the user in inputting experience rather than searching for existing items on the internet. I also learned how to implement larger core data functions within iOS. So before we mostly stuck with single entity projects, and this time there'll be multiple entities and conditionals based on one entity to another, which was very interesting in this application, and the whole process of doing it was very interesting to learn. Finally, I learned how to use web APIs, which I had never done before, and I thought that was pretty interesting. And the final thing was I learned to use more advanced storyboard features. I included a little more interesting and customized features in this application, so I'd customize the background, I'd customize the button styles, and I added custom images and just to style it a little better. Still not satisfied with anything, but it's a pretty good start, I would say. So moving on to the final slide of this presentation, I wanted to follow the template given to us and had some suggestions for improvement. They are kind of similar to the example project that was given to us as an example. First one would be I think we should teach XML data structures, and I know it was mentioned that it's a little less human readable than JSON, but I don't know, I feel like it's more commonly used, so it might be good to learn. I also thought more could be done to explain the app creation process. For example, styling the apps, like what's the more professional way to go about doing that? What's the more professional way of implementing functions, or what are more realistic functions to expect in a professional app? And I also thought more could have been done to explain the development process, as we were kind of given free reign. So I don't know, it was a little daunting for first timers. I'm not new to programming, but just a larger scale app's a little different. I did like how this project was broken into phases, so that made things like a little less stressful, as well as you get feedback on your progress as opposed to just turning something in fully and not knowing what to expect when you get it graded. And also I thought more could have been done to go over external libraries for Swift. This goes back to the app creation process too, because I know there are certain features you find in professional apps like colors and user interface styling, and a lot of those are done through external libraries that you can find on the internet. For example, there's one for colors, implementing colors easier within Swift, and I thought that was kind of interesting. A lot of this can be done in storyboards, but this just allowed you to programmatically do it with a lot more simplicity, and I thought that was interesting. I did not implement it into this app, but in the future I would look into doing that. Anyway, thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you have a great summer, and yeah, thank you.